Good morning, everyone. All right. So yesterday we were anticipating a bit of a consolidation day, and we got a little more than that, more of a correction day than a digestion day. But we got to take a look around as we always do. Let's get some charts up here. And I thought we'd get a little bit of a different point of view, easier to get that in this platform instead of the other one setting up. But so this is a layout, and you can see in the bottom here, there's a whole lot of different layouts. Um, in any event, this one here is really handy for what we refer to as a top-down approach to see what markets, what sectors, subsectors, and so on are outperforming or underperforming in daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, whatever. And then we connect it up to this uh, list here, which loads the stocks within any of those. And there's different scans within here. So, and then it puts us in the ballpark of what we're looking for. But this is a real easy way of seeing what's happening. And yesterday, you can see here's solar, which was messy. It was pretty messy, but there was a lot of big down days. And so this one is holding at major support there. And you can see it did really, really well last year. Remember how poorly it did under the prior administration. I mean, it was just getting killed, and the Green Deal and all that stuff that went on. And so solar is a theme for AI, one of the energy sources. And you can see here, we covered stuff like this yesterday in MT Live. Look at that wide range bar igniting on volume that started this advance. And you got volume here where it moved up to resistance, and now it's sold off. So, this is kind of like, what is it going to do now? Well, I don't know. It's just a lot of overlapping bars, but it's just an example of what happened yesterday. Now look at this one. And we've been talking about this in the advisory letter for, quite a while through the year, how grocery stores have been doing so bad. And you talk about inequities, people are struggling, to where they're going to be able to make their dollars extend. And grocery stores are doing terribly. Meanwhile, I'm not going to go look at it, but if you go and look at jewelry stores, they did great last year. And so this economy isn't doing great. As everybody said, the consumer's holding things together. I don't know about all that. Now, again, the markets do crazy stuff, and you saw it on the Venezuela news. The oil sector went up, different stocks went up, and we could see what did good. Well, this one is in a downtrend, but it was a whole lot of things that went up in a big way. I'm just flipping through here. Now I go to a different sector, more focused. You get what I'm saying? Look at this one here. Look at there. You know, breakout and then crushing back down again. Um, Big down day in gambling, uh, utilities, independent producers, tobacco moving down. So, under the hood, I like to use that term under the hood because if we look around and we say, hey, we look at the major indices, we're like, all right, look at the Dow. That was a down day. Yes. In the context of this uptrend, is not a big deal. Retested the support and rallied for several days, and now it's pulling back, and we'll see if it holds at minor support or whether it comes all the way back down here. Well, we know that that correction that we see happening in other areas is rolling through other stocks. So, Amazon, that did great the last couple of days, but we click this the other way. What did bad? And, this is an institutional favorite. Look at that breakout failure. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't have a moving average on my weekly, but if I had the 20 there, it's equal to the 100. This is sitting right at around the 100 MA. But it looks right now like this gap area, I would say where it's headed for potentially. And if this is going down, well, other things going up kind of balance things out. So if we look at like the NASDAQ 100, That got rejected yesterday, but not a big deal. And we were kind of joking a little bit in the green room yesterday about, well, we always joke because I always things about trend lines, and we had talked last week about this uh, contraction in volatility and looking for which way it was going to go. And so you've heard me say a gazillion times, look to the left, and trend lines are, subjective. Well, here, the trend line or breakout traders of trend lines, now they're like, what the hell happened? Well, maybe it's one bar and it continues to go higher, but as it comes up to this resistance area up there, there's going to be a rejection. So now what we want to be looking for, just from the point of view of this particular sector, would be what happens today? Things aren't down all that much. Does it do this, which would then support our bias going into, well, maybe tomorrow we got this unemployment report, and then possibly the decision from the Supreme Court on tariffs that could play havoc or drive the markets higher. So we got a little uncertainty based on yesterday, but now do we get this today? Or do we get one of these today, which still would be a trading range, and it kind of puts us in no man's land. It's like, well, there's no trade set up there. Support and resistance are too close together to be doing anything. So we have to look other places for opportunities, which could be, a different point of view. And so there's good stuff out there, which was part of our commentary on Monday. And this supports that because this is the equally weighted cues. And there's that breakout. And yesterday was just a little inside correction day. The weekly chart is consolidating. And, there's another thing to take note of, that most markets have done nothing for months. They're chopping back and forth here. So you just draw a line through it, it poked down and it came back up. And so far, this has just been a consolidation since October. You look here, NASDAQ 100, even tighter, S&P 500, going nowhere. Oh, it was a, grow and make new all-time highs. Well, not so pleasant trading environment unless you're really, really nimble and getting in and out. But basically, it's gone nowhere since October. All right. Financials yesterday had a down day. That's in a decent uptrend. And so as we sort this by what did well, healthcare. Oh, check out healthcare stocks. We need to look through here. But you got to look, because there's one that got cratered yesterday. So we start with the broader markets, look at what sectors are doing, and then look at stocks within those individual sectors, which then evolves into looking at patterns that support prices going one way or another. So stuff like this, if this premium, tend to be no-brainers for call spreads in a short amount of time, because what's the probability of this going back up to the high of this bar today, or even next week to get above this high? So, that's the idea behind all of that. So there's a lot of stuff that, is getting hurt. Marijuana just continues to disappoint, even with the president descaling it, so to speak, just not doing anything. And there's that big nasty drop in energy. But let's see what the markets are doing here this morning. All right. Now you should be able to see the other screen. And so there was potentially a breakout failure. Right? It made a higher high. Major support is down here. We always give the benefit of the doubt to the trend, right? Which is, in this case, up. And I just showed you a lot of damage being done under the hood. So what's going to happen today? We're all going to find out together. This would imply a little bit more down. 6,900 has been a significant, well, at one point it was resistance, and now it should be support. So I just trying to put a line there, forget the number, in that area. So pullbacks towards 6,900. You can see some overlapping congestion there. You can see the cursor on the 65-minute chart down below. There's a little congestion down there at 6,900 once it cleared it. So let's see what happens. As it comes down there, does it bounce? Does it move lower? There's a little gap between bars. You can see the cursor there. So prices are chopping around here. And there's the big news tomorrow that it is widely anticipated. And so today may be, a running in place day. And I said yesterday, I was thinking that, but we got a little bit more of that, which, you can see. Spiders, the same little potential breakout failure. We got to see where it goes. And right now, it's gapping down a little bit toward that support and this congestion there. We'll see if it holds, if it bounces back up or whatever it's going to do. Daily chart, new high, major support is down here. Look, if there wasn't news tomorrow, what I would be hoping, I'm always hoping for something in alignment with the trend, but would just be an update, a red bar ignored, bar by bar analysis, and that would support a bias is going higher. With the news coming out, if there was a green bar today that closed at the top of this range, that would suggest that somebody in the know thinks that news is going to be good and it's going to go up. There was some article, I didn't read the whole thing. Some entity or person is betting like a huge amount of money that the Fed isn't going to do anything. I think it was in Market Watch. Maybe I can find it for everybody in the room later. And some of the news yesterday, I guess maybe what rattled the markets, whether it was that JOLT report or they digested it, that maybe the Fed isn't going to be so anxious to do any cut, which was anticipated for this month. And I think that maybe what got the markets moving down. But in any event, tomorrow's numbers could change all that. And of course, we have the president, which loves to make comments. And last year we had all those, what they coined the taco trades. Well, Venezuela. Now, the comments about defense goes down. Now they're going to spend money on that. Defense is kind of holding up here. So, it's unfortunate. Whatever he's doing, good or bad, we're going to hear our own opinion. But sometimes I wish he would just close his mouth for a while. All right. SPX. Yesterday, nothing was touched. With the down day, we're below not only 6,900, we're down below 6,850. And that should be a no-brainer in whatever down move, say it comes down into this gap fill. Some juice premium down here should be a no-brainer. And I suspect, unless some other news comes out, it's not going up here, but that's relatively close to 6,950. All right, Qs, same story of what we looked at in the other charts, a little breakout and failure. They're essentially down a little bit, not a big deal. IWM took a rest. So this is one of the positives, that this came back as it did, but we've seen it come back strong and go back down, and that's a wide trading range overall. Diamonds, big down day, and I could go to the other platform and look individual stocks, but we know Apple went down, and obviously a few others for this to look like that. All right, silver, wide trading range in development mode here, still in an uptrend. Bitcoin, I'll look at gold. Bitcoin pulling back within the trading range. We talked about this coming up here, and I think it was even yesterday. It was like, hey, if we can get a green bar here, maybe we're going up, but no, it's not happening. Lithium, moving back down. as you can see, so nothing to do there. Gold, nothing to do at this time, no patterns. Trade, crude oil is up a little bit, but still within this slop that's been going on. And interest rates or bond prices back down, interest rates up. We talked about this big topping pattern. It recovered after the breakdown. So we're going to keep an eye on this. Of course, it's good if this is going down, what's going up. And where's my, oh, here. This breaks out above here. With oil going down is good, but if this breaks out above here, that's not going to be a great sign. But if it goes down too much, there becomes a belief that maybe this economy is beginning to deteriorate. In any event, today is probably going to be a chop day waiting for tomorrow's news. All yours, Dan.
Good morning. Yeah, I agree with that. Don't have many alarms again. I don't have a huge watch list. We got a NUE alarm. It's getting close to that's breakout failure. And then Google bottom right. I was watching this yesterday for a put spread. It took off in the afternoon there. Now it's up again. 30-minute high. It looks like a directional, but I posted 5-minute high. We'll try to do a put spread. It's definitely on its own page here today in the planning department. The video was strong. Amazon, a lot of weak ones. Tesla, Apple. That's one. CRS. I'm watching this wide range breakout, and that's rested. It's rested for 3 days, and you upper 75%. That's a great pattern right there. My alarm went off here at 3:44. We'll see where it opens. Have it here in the middle chart. OSW, I like 1, 2, 3, 4. And that looks like that might be gapping up. EFX. Greg was watching this yesterday. Glad we didn't get in. That's an ugly freaking gap, man. And I didn't, it has to be news because charts don't gap down like that on no news. So I'm glad we avoided that. Mister, we have a put spread doing nothing. Bitcoin, kind of a descending triangle here on the 15-minute chart. All right, let's look at some earnings. Apple in gap in the yesterday's high. Just doesn't have a big void is all is the problem. So it's 30-minute high, maybe a day trade. But I don't like the reward to risk for swing, particularly with all the four horsemen here. Iffy. It has to be something more unique and bullish like Google for me to consider a directional. STZ was gapping up, now pulling in. It would have been a good pattern if it took out yesterday's high. I'll set an alarm at 143.50, see if it recovers. AZZ big fat nothing. Consolidation of an uptrend. I don't see any gaps though yet. RPM, bearish gap down. 99. So you gotta look at bigger time frames to see where it might go. I could go to 95. Gapping down 5% though. But it's bearish. Call spread if there's any juice. CMC, little breakout failure, gapping down. Call spread maybe. Today's Thursday, so credit spreads, we only have one BT, one night of risk. Sample. It's, it's a potential bottoming pattern, but it needs a lot more work that interests me to want to buy it. It's just slopping around in the range here. That's a bullish gap, but excessive. Bullish weekly, monthly. And then get the 112 in the middle of no man's land. I think it needs to go further down before buyers would step up. Could be maybe a condor. But yeah, I don't have any tier one earnings there. It's just go to the watch list stuff. BBY, it's extended on the 15, but it's a sell setup in 180 reversal. We looked for a call spread, but there was no juice. We did a call spread on Nike though. That one I like better. And hey, this looks like a great day trade. 5-10 minute low. I know it's down a lot on the 15, but it's controlled stair step selling, and has a nice void on the daily. That looks good. 19. Oh yeah, military Trump saying, my first, of course everyone knows he wants a better military, but I think these stocks are overreacting. Why? Because, look, this was gapping at 196, bullish gap. We actually were in those. We were in those for a buy setup. We stopped out yesterday. Well, I don't know what happened on these afternoon collapses. But why do I think it's an overreaction? Because Trump wants $1.5 trillion budget. Who does Trump set the budget? No. And so what is the likelihood? Whoever has one of these poly accounts, and I've never used those things. And I don't know who gets to put a bet on there. You know what I'm saying? Who decides what is a bettable item? Like I put one on there that says, what are the odds that Trump's going to get $1.5 trillion budget passed? You know what odds I would give that? 0.5%. It's like nobody cares about fiscal responsibility. You want to increase it 50% just because you say so. That's a big old mess. LMT, these are all the military. And it's just a mess. But my bias would be to watch. Man, that's holding up strong. 6-8. Look at the size of that gap. And it's holding strong pre-market. But I don't know. I'm a contrarian. I would be more inclined to sell a call spread. Costco came out with their monthly report. That's bullish. It's up a lot, but maybe a put spread for 1 BTE. Here's another 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, I always use this analogy, the A/B test. So that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, and so is OSW. This one is superior. I know it's at resistance, but then it has this void up here in this pattern. If it takes out the week's high, it says it's, you know, 2250. But I will still, I know, so this one's more of a put spread, but I'll set an alarm on 2750. Now, this one I have is a call spread, got a downgrade from a Plimo. And it's breaking down here into the close. So it's gonna make it harder to get a premium. But I will watch it. My other computer. I have, you know, that's yeah, he's, I'm not gonna get into that. Can't just go taking over countries like that. NATO countries even. All right, so this was a nice closing breakdown yesterday. After breakout failure, and as a void. The problem is it's gapping down above 50. I think they were doing a secondary offering or something, but that's a no-brainer call spread. If there's any juice. Coins potential bottoming pattern for put spread. GMed, that's rocking here. Looks like all-time highs, but extended. Now Lilly, look at the 15-minute on Lilly. That could be a 30-minute high day trade. And you know, $1,100 stock. So I think the spreads are usually ludicrous, but that's a put spread idea. Chippy, nothing. CRS, I mentioned, Google, Saddle, bottoming pattern. Look at this. QQQE, Greg mentioned that, but now see now it's 80% into that. So you know, we want them to stay in the upper 40%. STZ. All right, remember I set my alarm at 143.50 and I said, let's see if it can recover. It did. Well, let's give this 5 minutes. That's not bad. The Nike is weak. I mentioned that as a big trade. Yeah, I mentioned CRS. Yeah, it's in that middle chart. Yeah. I wish it didn't have that tail, and then that'd be a great 30-minute high, but yeah, it's still a tier 1 watch. All right, STZ. STZ looks great. That's a nice, a little pseudo buy setup, and it's gapping over a red bar. That's a nice pattern. I just don't trade earnings stocks in particular in the first 5 minutes. So let's give this maybe a 5-minute high. Check 40 puts. Moss up alarm. We're in that from yesterday. I think Moss was our only friggin' directional new trade yesterday. PSMC I mentioned, up alarm. STZ, I'm sure the spreads are gonna be nuts. 140. They're not even open yet. It's 3 by 360. So spread the option man is not open. All right, Google, I said 5-minute high, which doesn't look like it's gonna happen anytime soon. PSMT, nah, that's a mess. That gap down. Forget about it. Moss, our Moss is ripping now. Look at Moss. We entered this yesterday. This was the only new long. The 1, 2, 3. Now it's looking great. I'll set an alarm and break even on my end. 25.43.